Hebrews 13:3 says, "Remember those who are in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as if you yourself is suffering." In a country that's based and founded on mainly Christian concepts, why is it that our prisoners are so neglected? This doesn't simply apply to while they're incarcerated, but when they've paid their debt to society and return home, the cycle continues. Leonard Sipes, who is a retired federal senior spokesperson for Crime in America, reports that as of 2020, 77% of offenders return to jail or prison within 5 years of their release. That's over 3/4. I cannot sit here today and assume that it's because these people are just simply bad people. There has to be a reason that this is happening. And I know personally something that could greatly help. There needs to be more education in the prison system in order to encourage a change of lifestyle for people who struggle with criminal and addictive thinking. I sit here from my laptop in my warm home with the smell of dinner cooking in the background, typing up this college assignment. It seems simple and typical for most of us. I just left work and I rushed home to spend time with my loving family and eat dinner. After doing my homework, of course. These are the things that make me human. These are the things that motivate me to do well. I'm telling you this not to bore you with the mundane details of my simple life, but to give you an insight that many of you may not have. This is something that a lot of people don't have. I once didn't have the right to do these things. I write this presentation not simply from interest, but from experience. In 2012, the day after my daughter was born, I was served a federal drug trafficking charge. I had been sober for about 6 months when I was initially served the charge, and for around 3 years when I finally had to turn myself in to start serving my 4-year federal prison sentence. I remember the feeling of dread in my stomach. I was terrified. I knew what this meant. I was going to lose everything. I had never been to prison before, just in and out of county jail, and I was living a normal life at the time, a life of being a new mother and with sobriety under my belt for the first time ever. I knew I was guilty of the charges I was being served, but I was confused about why it took so long for these charges to emerge. Why now? How would this affect my future? Was there any hope for me, or was my life over? I remember sitting in county jail for around 13 months awaiting my actual sentence. There was literally nothing to do. We just sat there staring at each other. No programs to pass time or educate us. I'd watch inmates get released and then they'd return shortly after, and it didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense. Why do they keep coming back? Inmates spent most of their days reminiscing about their past drug use or criminal behavior. It was not healthy at all, and it was counterproductive at best. Then something happened that changed my life forever. Something I hadn't even planned on. The guards told us they were going to be offering a psychology class and a sociology class from a local college, and we would be able to take it. It was a hybrid class, half online, and then the teacher would come teach a couple classes within the jail. I was bored out of my mind. I had never considered college before in my life. I had no idea what even happened in college classes, but I knew if I didn't find something to do, I was going to lose my mind. So I signed up. According to an article from NPR Ed titled "Measuring the Power of a Prison Education," about 40% of prisoners don't have a high school diploma. That's almost half. It's hard enough to get a decent job with a high school diploma. Now imagine trying to get a decent job with no high school diploma and as a felon. It's almost impossible. The same article talks about the inmate exclusion law, which Congress passed in 1994. This law made it so inmates couldn't get federal Pell Grants, which resulted from a massive decrease of inmates attending classes and getting post-secondary education. Obama overturned that law partially in 2015, and the reason that Congress passed the law to begin with is because taxpayers didn't want to pay for college for criminals, and what they don't take into consideration is that providing education to inmates reduces the likelihood of them reoffending, thus keeping them out of prison. What they don't realize is that college is actually far cheaper than prison is. Putting prisoners through college actually saves taxpayers money in the long run. In fact, for every $1 spent on education in the prison system, $4 is saved on reincarceration costs. And that's as reported by Dr. Turner Nash, Senior Vice President of Education Services for GTL. I'm sure you're wondering exactly what the numbers are. You remember in the beginning of this presentation I told you that 77% of people return to jail within 5 years of being released. Let me tell you some new numbers, and you can decide for yourself on whether this is a beneficial thing within the prison system. In an article written in 2017 by Dr. Turner Nash titled GTL's Education Solutions Can Break the Cycle of Recidivism, there are some pretty compelling numbers. These numbers really give some insight on how big of a deal this topic is. With simple vocational training, now that's just vocational training, nothing else, recidivism rates drop to around 30%. Now with an associate's degree, they drop to about 13.7%. With a bachelor's degree, the recidivism drops to 5.6%, which is quite a bit lower. And then this final one will really blow your mind. With a master's degree, recidivism drops to 0%. Zero from 77. And that's a huge jump, quite obviously. These numbers are indisputable and so important for society to understand and be aware of. It's impossible to expect people to change without offering them the tools to do so, and it's cruel in my opinion. It is one thing to simply read these numbers, it's another to actually live it. When I went to prison, I thought my life was over, but in reality, it was just beginning. The life I have today would not be possible without the random exposure I had to higher education while incarcerated. I went away for a serious crime that was related to my addiction to drugs. I came from a background where nobody in my family had ever graduated college. I dropped out of school in 8th grade and went on. I never attended high school, and I went on to get my GED when I was around 16. And honestly, I saw no point in even furthering my education at all. I had never even considered college classes, nor did I care about higher education at that point in my life. I was lucky to land in a jail that had a unique college program, and I had all of the risk factors associated with the likelihood of reoffending. I'm living proof that this approach works. I'm living proof how important education is in the prison system. Here I sit typing a college assignment from my home after a long day at work. I had never had a steady job before being incarcerated. In fact, I collected disability for a disorder that doesn't even affect me today. I didn't stand a chance statistically or realistically. I applied for school at Beale while I was still technically a federal inmate living in a halfway house when I was released. I graduated college for the second time this year, and not only did I graduate college, but I graduated valedictorian of my class. Me, a dropout, an addict, a convict, a felon. If I didn't gain the confidence and reward of education while incarcerated, I may very well be back in prison. Today I work as a drug and alcohol counselor for a well-respected agency. I'm continuing my education and helping serve my community while I do it. I was given the skills to begin to do this while incarcerated, and I'm not sure where I would be without the opportunity that I was given. This topic interests me because I feel as though we may be looking for answers in all of the wrong places. Maybe the answer isn't simply recovery. Maybe it's enlightenment. Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. The best way we build the new for people who struggle with a history of criminal behavior is to offer them a route they haven't yet considered, to empower them to learn and allow them to grow and change. The prison systems are flooded with inmates who don't know there is a better way, and according to the Sentencing Project fact sheet on trends in U.S. corrections, there are currently 2.2 million people incarcerated in the United States, which is a 500% increase over the last 40 years. A great deal of these individuals will be returning back to their communities. How do you feel they should be returned? These are your neighbors and co-workers, with 3/4 of them likely to return to prison. We have to find a realistic solution. They say knowledge is power, and I believe that. I believe it wholeheartedly. Let's focus on building people up instead of breaking them down. We need to bring education into the prison system in order to give incarcerated individuals a fighting chance when they get home, not only for them, but for everyone. Treating people like humans and offering them resources will be more beneficial in the long run. The numbers speak for themselves, and I am living proof.